What's going on, everybody? Malik here, and today we're going to be doing a review for the movie The Northman. I have seen this movie twice. That should tell you something from the jump. I am a very big fan of this movie. I will start off by saying we're gonna go straight into the review here. I'm gonna start off by saying that as a movie, this is a masterclass. This is chef's kiss. Robert Eggers is a phenomenal director. I love The Lighthouse. I love this movie. This movie's in my top 5 movies of me personally, and just everything that is attempted here, as far as from a filmmaking perspective, is done so well. The cinematography is amazing. A lot of long, wide shots, just very scenic, very immersive. It's almost like you're standing still in some of these locations and you're just watching things play out in front of you. Same with the close-up shots, giving you more perspective from the character's point of view, or just a more personal interaction with each character when they do these face-up, close-up shots. And there is a very particular cut, a very particular shot done extremely well in the final battle scene. There is a long shot, a long one-frame shot in the middle of that battle, at the height of that battle, and it's done so perfectly well. No shaky cam, no nothing. You just see the battle play out in front of you for a substantial amount of time. You know, even like a minute straight of straight up fighting is a lot better than a lot of films that do shaky cam or changing 70 angles in 5 seconds. This movie gives you the satisfaction of that long shot right there in that battle, and I really appreciated that. Especially someone that loves combat and weapon combat and stuff like that. That was a very awesome scene, a very awesome shot that they were able to get for that part of the movie. And overall, I can just say that this movie does an amazing job at immersing you in the world. Everybody is doing their thing. The actors are doing a great job. The environment just looks amazing. Everything is just on point. The music is phenomenal. I listen to this score all the time still, and I probably will continue to listen to this score for a very long time. The music in this is awesome. I really love how it complemented every single scene, and it really created more of that intensity. So really, to summarize it from a filmmaking perspective, the level of immersion in this film is phenomenal. There are not that many movies, I feel like, nowadays that can fully immerse you in the time period, or especially for historical movies, to immerse you so well into the time period and into what's going on is pretty hard to do, I would say. And this movie does a great job of that, so I really appreciate that. Now, also along with the film part of this review, the movie does have some moments where it slows down briefly, but it's always followed up by something, or it's always leading to something. So it's kind of like a little internment in between, but even what's happening in the slower parts is still leading to something very intense usually. So this is when they inject some of the spiritual sections of the movie, or this is when they inject a crucial plot point, or a twist or something like that. They do it so that whenever it's slow, it kind of builds into this very intense scene. And overall, yes, as a film, this is an experience. This is something that I would recommend people to watch in theaters, or as close as you can to a theater. If you're watching this movie at home, cut all the blinds off, turn that speaker up, and just really allow the movie to encapsulate your mind for the runtime of 2 hours and 17 minutes, because it is really an experience. The sounds, the setting, the intensity of some of these scenes just really put you there with the characters. Moving forward into the details of the period that this movie takes place in, which is the mid-Viking age, the 900s, mid 900s, and this movie does an excellent job of, again, the level of detail here is tremendous. You can tell that the directors and the people working on this movie did their research. There's not any of these tropes or misconceptions, stereotypes that are usually associated with Vikings or the Viking Age. It's not really here. It's actually done very well. As a matter of fact, it's probably the most accurate, period accurate form of clothing, architecture, the way that they view the world, the way that they talk. All of these things are very accurate to the time period and how it has been explained by historians and also, you know, people from the time period. You know, how a lot of people lived back then. So as far as the clothing goes, men are wearing nice, very nice tunics and trousers and leg wraps and appropriate shoes, not like all this crazy black leather that we see in a lot of Viking shows. And yeah, the clothing is just great. The women too as well, wearing the tortoise brooches and nice dresses, head coverings, things like that. Very well done in that department. One more thing I wanted to add about the clothing is the armor. The armor is awesome. The shields, covered in leather with a rawhide rim, painted. You know, you don't see the planks of the wood, and you know, even the spears that they use and all these things. The weapons are done very well. The Geirmundur style helmets and the nasal helmets, you know, are all well done. Awesome. The chainmail, you know, not all this ridiculous leathery stuff. And you know, they're actually wearing helmets a lot of the time in this movie. Now moving into the architecture in this film is done very well. A lot of the halls, the buildings, the boats are all done very well. Now the language, they do insert certain moments where the characters will use Old Norse, or you know, the best iterations of Old Norse are involved somewhere in the script, and I think that's great. I think that for a general audience, and I could be wrong, but most people don't like to read subtitles. Me personally, I love it. I love to hear, you know, the real language and all of that. But I know some people can get, they might not like it as much if they're reading subtitles and stuff like that. But to me, the language sounds badass. I love to hear it. And in this movie, there are certain instances where they do use it. I think that's awesome. And also, on the topic of language, I will also say that the way that they talk in this movie is very different from how people in the modern day talk. And I love that attention to detail, because the way that they talk in this movie is very reminiscent of what is described to have been the way that they talked and behaved back then, which is amazing. I really love that, you know, the way that they speak is very direct, or the flow of their conversation is just very different from the way that we have conversation nowadays. And I really appreciated that. It was very, a lot of metaphors, a lot of behavioral things. From the religious end of things, the religious spiritual sections of the movie are often the most intense, and I really appreciated that, because oftentimes, you know, and I think that's changing. You know, it's part of the theme of my channel in particular, is the fact that people are kind of changing the way that they tend to view the world and the way that they view, you know, their relationship with spirituality and all these things. And this movie does a very good job of kind of, again, putting you into the perspective of the people in the time period and giving you kind of more leverage as to why they would think the way they do and why they worship what they do the way they do. And I think that it's a very very fair representation of a traditional Norse religious worldview. And like I said, a lot of the time these are the most intense parts of the movie. So there are scenes, in particular the shaman scenes, or you know, where a seer is involved, or a witch, or just, you know, the shaman of that that hold, that kingdom. These characters are given so much power over the main character in these situations, and I love that. I love to see, you know, how even though the main character is so powerful and so much of a force to be reckoned with in the physical realm, and you know how he handles and destroys his enemies, but when he's interacting with these spiritual beings, he's almost like not cowering, but he is almost like he understands that in this realm, in this spiritual thing, he is below them, and they, you know, you feel that in those scenes. Now, I will say that there is just one tiny, actually two tiny things that bother me about this film, and they're very small. Like I said, overall, I really love this film. You know, I've kind of like been rambling about all the things I like in this film so far, but um, oddly, in certain scenes in this movie, the director shies away from violence or like very gruesome violence. And the reason why I say I dislike that is just because it's kind of inconsistent. Because at certain parts of the movie, like you see it without any cutaway, like you see very gruesome, violent, gory things, but in certain parts it's off screen or like out of frame. You know, like the main character is doing his thing, but the person that he's killing or whatever is out of the frame. And I don't know, it doesn't bother me that much, but I just thought it was a little weird because there are other scenes, like I said, where everything is just straight up shown to you. So yeah, I mean, it's a small gripe, but a little gripe nonetheless. And another thing, there is a character in this film that I think that they did a great job. I think that they were, you know, a good, that whole scene, that whole part is a very good part of the movie. But the Vegvisir, which is what some people call the Viking Compass, there is a character here that has this image or something that looks a lot like it on their hat. And that's an issue just because for anyone that has done the research, Vegvisir is made up. It was created in the early 1800s, I believe, by Icelandic writers, but again, not an official symbol associated with the time period. But nonetheless, I guess I can't really judge it that much because who knows? I mean, you know, there's a lot of mystery. Who knows? Maybe they had a symbol kind of like Vegvisir, but we don't know. You know what I'm saying? So it's a very minute little detail thing that probably only people that are like really like anal about the historical representation and stuff will probably gripe about. My score for this film is a solid 9 out of 10. I was fully immersed in this film. I felt everything that was happening in the spiritual parts of the film. The cinematography, again, amazing. Everything. I loved this movie a lot. There's just, you know, certain little tiny things that bother me that would have otherwise made it a 10 for me. But yeah, solid 9 out of 10. I really love this movie. I want to see more movies like it. Now that's all I have to say about the Northman. Yeah, I think you should go see it. I really enjoy this movie. This movie is not going to be for everybody. I definitely believe that people that study this time period and study these people and this, you know, the spiritual aspect of the Norse people, you are going to appreciate this movie far more than an average Marvel fan, mil-sim movie enjoyer. Definitely. That's me. You know, I like the research. I love the time period. I'm very invested into that history and trying to understand, you know, their way of life and the way they thought. So I got a lot out of this movie. Nonetheless, I appreciate you guys for watching all the way to the end, and I will have more reviews in the future. Definitely centered around historical epics, historical fiction, historical drama. This is what I want to focus on because I'm trying to be cohesive with the other things I talk about on my channel. I don't want to, you know, spread myself too thin. So yeah, we're gonna keep going on the spiritual, the pagan, the nature worshiping, the those kinds of cultures. That's what we are going to discuss. So in the future, when there's more movies about historical figures, historical time periods, things like that, I will cover them with the knowledge that I have and give you my review of them. Nonetheless, I appreciate you again, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.